Well, man, that was fun. Well, it was more fun for me than it was for you, but it was fun. I'm super
For
glad to
sure.
finally have gotten the rush of week 1 of the NFL in here. So I'm ready to get into week 2. Are you ready?
We're going to find out, but yes, I'm much more excited about this week.
Yeah. Hopefully this will be a good one. So for anyone who's wondering, real quick, we're going to use the NFL Pick'em site, this site right here, actually, but we're not really saving the score. There's not really a competition here. So if you beat us, you're on the honor system. Just tell us you won, and we'll believe you. So now we're going to get into it here. Give me your first pick. Thursday night, we've got the Commanders going to the Packers. I think both teams played pretty well in their debuts. The Packers, everyone seemed like they're kind of reinforcing their Super Bowl favorites kind of view of things. So what do you think of this first one? Commanders and Packers.
I do think this will be a good game. I think that this may even be a very close game. But I just think the Packers really came out the gate looking like a pretty complete team. I expect Jordan to lead them to a win here. I would take Green Bay on this one.
Yeah, I think this might be closer than these percentages would lead on. I was quite impressed by certain elements in the Commanders' play against the Giants that kind of surprised me. Like, I didn't think that the Giants had a great offensive line, but the defensive line of the Commanders just smothered them. If they can get some pressure on Jordan Love, they could maybe make something happen here. I feel like that's one of the big things the game comes down to. But on the other side of this, if Micah Parsons in particular is further acclimated to the Packers system, because he really didn't play a lot of snaps, but if he's further acclimated and he's ready to go and he can make a real impact on Jaden, then this could be as lopsided as this suggests. So, but that should be a really good game. I'm looking forward to Thursday. So then we have a less compelling game, I feel like. We have the Browns against the Ravens. And even taking into account that this is a division matchup and the Browns can be kind of feisty, and they were in a 1-point game with the Browns and apparently with the Bengals, excuse me. And it's like would have probably won that game if their kicker had been better. I still don't want to put them in the realm with the Ravens, who have, I believe, even in recent history, just really had their number. You don't even really need to have the Browns' number to win against them most of the time, but they have. Yeah. So walk me through how you feel on this one.
Well, I mean, yeah, they do right now seem to, well, as opposed to the past, find ways to lose games. But I think we'd be remiss to not point out how absolutely devastating their defense was against what we expect to be over the course of the year. And although they do start out slow, Cincinnati. So even with all that, I hope they make it a very interesting game. Maybe we'll see Derek go ahead and run for another 150 yards, but I expect this one to be better from that angle. I think the Ravens have to work, but yes, I do expect them to come out ahead in this one and put that away pretty easily.
Yeah, I think one of the things they said made the Browns-Bengals game a little closer was the offensive line play of the Bengals just not being particularly great. Ravens O-line has played pretty well so far, and as elusive as Joe Burrow is, Lamar is considerably more so. So I would agree with you. It's probably going to be a pretty solid win.
Well, the Browns are not tooled to win a shootout.
No. Even on Joe Flacco's best day, this just doesn't feel good for them. So yeah. All right. Next, we've got another kiddie bowl. We've got the Jaguars playing the Bengals. Bengals are heavily favored despite aforementioned close win against the Browns. So what do you think here?
Well, I think it would be nice to ride the high of the Jaguars in their early win, but it was against the Panthers, and the Panthers definitely looked still out of sorts. I really wanted to convince myself of this, and maybe the Jaguars defense can, like you said, exploit the offensive line of the Bengals, but I don't. It's not even a safe bet. It's like the fairly sure bet, I think, to stick with the Bengals at this point. Now, if Jaguars come out of this game convincingly, I think I may kind of put more stock in them going forward. But right now, I'll stick with the Bengals.
Yeah, I can see this one being like a sneaky kind of sort of shootout. Not 40-41 like we got, but like 30-33 or something like that. So maybe this is when Brian Thomas Jr. really comes out of hibernation. So we'll see. Not that he was bad in week 1. He just didn't really have prolific stats. All right. So finally, we got some Giants. We got some Cowboys. Tell me about this first matchup against the Giants.
Well, let's point out the obvious. It'll be easier as an opponent than the Eagles. So, looking at this game, there were things that against the Eagles you have to do to even be in that game. You have to find a way to slow down Saquon Barkley, and you have to find some way to keep their wide receivers from tearing you apart. And we were able to do those two things. We just weren't able to hold Jalen Hurts in. So Russ is not what he used to be. I'm not, even though he led his team in rushing this week, I'm not nearly as concerned about him as I was Jalen. Watch me pay for that. Malik Neighbors, love him. Robinson is the other side of that. I think they're great. But I do love what we've seen so far from Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland. So if they're going to play like that this season, it's going to make teams that need to get out and throw the ball some. It's going to make it very difficult. Tyron Tracy is also a kind of a favorite of mine as well to watch, but he is not Saquon Barkley. And if we held him to 60 yards, I feel good. I feel good about where we are going into this game. You mentioned last week the Cardinals going to New Orleans and that being a trap game and not falling into that. This definitely falls in that category. Our division plays each other hard. And yes, the Giants were not convincing at all in their previous game in division. I do not want to overlook them. I want to come in, let's get rolling and roll over them. That would be nice. I would love to see us more than 2 touchdowns in this one. But yes, I would definitely take the Cowboys in this. Do you see chinks in that armor, or you think that's pretty straightforward?
Not really. When we talked about the Cowboys earlier this week, and we kind of talked about this game a little bit, and we kind of mentioned that maybe it was off air anyway, but we talked about how the Giants are kind of like the Eagles, but minus. So, Russell Wilson can run the ball, but he's not Jalen Hurts. And Tyron Tracy can run the ball, but he's not Saquon Barkley. Yeah. And their wide receiver group is pretty good, but it's not A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. So, they're just everything about them except for maybe their defensive line now after the losses of for 1 week at least of Jalen Carter and Josh Sweat and so on. They may have them beat their defensive line. But other than that, they're the Eagles at least -1. So we'll see. They're going to be feisty. If you get subjected to some perfect Russell Wilson moonball kind of things, then maybe this becomes close, or maybe they really get after Dak and force a couple of fumbles. But they're going to need some not hero ball, but almost like hero ball played by some aspect of their team. So the D line comes to life, or maybe their corners play better than they're used to playing. But this percentage chance is just about right, I feel like. So, So let's just.
I agree with you.
What's that?
But I said I agree with you. I think you actually just pointed out a really good, probably concern, if you will, is that their defensive line really is high end and will probably be a bigger challenge than Philly's from last week. So we were talking about the young offensive line for Dallas. I'll be interested to see how they manage this defensive line. Lawrence terrifies me. So I'll be very interested to see how we do with that. But sorry, just thought I'd throw that in because I thought that was a really good point for me.
Yeah, we'll see. But it should be a good game. I mean, it actually shouldn't be a good game. It should be kind of lopsided, but
it should be enjoyable for Cowboys fans. That's
as we mentioned before, your division plays itself kind of crazy. So, all right. Then we've got an NFC North matchup here: Bears at Lions. I don't know that I'd probably pick this the way they're doing it, but just to sneak ahead on you here, but I don't know that this would be quite as lopsided as this is suggesting it would be. Who are you picking for this one?
I think I'm going with Detroit out of respect for their previous season, but they showed some real concerning areas in their first game. And Chicago, they showed up and played a good game, but it was a good game, but the Minnesota's defense is very, very, very good. Yeah. Their offense, McCarthy obviously was figuring things out, and they just ended up on the wrong side of it. I think that this could end up being a real game, especially a divisional game in that particular division. So, but the safe bet I think is still Detroit.
Yeah, I would agree. The Bears played fairly well for 2.5, 3 quarters or something like that, and then just kind of came apart at the seams. And I try not. We didn't say this for every single game as we're talking about week 1, but it warrants being said. Week 1 is just weird. and you can't really draw all conclusions from week one. So I'm trying to get back in some ways to what I really thought these teams were going to be and not get too polluted by weirdness that happened at week one. So yeah, I think it'll be the Lions. But again, similar to Giants at Cowboys, I could see the score being relatively close, more, 24-30 or 20-24 or something like that, relatively close and respectable. So, but we'll see. And we got to stop picking home teams. We're in too much of a trend here. So.
That's true, right?
Maybe
here we go.
So an oddly interesting game between two teams that I don't know that are going to be ultra relevant going into like January and such, but we finally got one that's 50-50. I don't think we've run into that before. So tell me what you think on this one. Kind of a funny one.
It is. Man, I guess the shortest version of this is I'm really concerned about whatever's going on in Miami. I'm in a perpetual state of fear for Tua. And just the way that game played out was very bizarre. So, I mean, that would make it difficult for me to pick them in general, even though they're super talented in so many areas. That just the way that game played was awful. I know we just talked about week one and what's going on there. Drake, on the other hand, I think actually played a pretty good game. He was 30 out of 46 for passing, 300-ish yards. He actually was moving the ball down the field. I kind of expect them to take another step this week. I kind of figured that they would evolve as a team this year anyway. So I'm going to take them in this one to pull this off down in Miami. And I just hope Tua's okay. So, yeah. What about you?
Again, we're getting quite a few division matchups early in the season. But and there's a weird history, I believe, with the Patriots playing in Miami. But they played so poorly. And again, trying not to look too much into week one weirdness. But it was so bad that I've got to look at them and just be like, all right, are you imploding immediately? Because I thought it was going to be like week 10 before we saw this. So, yeah, I'm really not sold on what they have. I mean, by all accounts, the Dolphins have, I would say, the better roster, which is weird.
Yeah.
But I am not confident at all in their ability to put it all together. So in some ways, they remind me of like the 2022 Cardinals, where things were just coming apart at the seams. We had some talent, but injuries were there, and older players were having, there was all this drama. And so, yeah, I'm thinking the Dolphins maybe about to have a really hard time. So good luck, Dolphins fans. We'll see what they do here. I won't be shocked if the Dolphins somehow win. I will say that. But,
agreed.
All right. This one's going to be hard to paint as a close game, but I will say, with the news of, I believe Brock Purdy's missing this game, and George Kittle's actually on IR for some period of time. Even with that, I feel like this percentage might be telling a little bit of truth, at least. What do you think? Should we think more of the close game-ish that the Saints, well, it was a one-score game, that the Saints made it with the Cardinals, or is this just Niners all the way?
Yeah, I don't know that I believe this is going to be an easy game for the Niners. Mac Jones, I think, is going to helm this one, assuming that Brock's really out. And McCaffrey was back and had a pretty good game, So there's some positives for them going into this. I do think that their offense relies very, very on the role of Kittle in all of that. So we'll have to see how that plays out over the game. But yeah, I kind of think that the Niners will pull this one out, and the young Mr. Rattler will have to figure things out as we go. Mm-hmm. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it should be the Niners, even with Mac Jones, and I don't even know the tight end that backs up George Kittle, to be completely honest. But the Saints played really well, especially defensively, I felt like. Their offense was pretty good at getting down the field, but not at getting into the end zone. Like, he took some chances. He's going to need to take more against the Niners. So I could see the score being a little closer. It's tough to play in New Orleans. If Cam Jordan's going to play like a man on fire like he did this last Sunday, then maybe they get a real shot at this. So if I were making this percentage myself, it'd be more like 85-15, I think. But it should be Niners. It just should. They're well coached, well run. And yeah, sadly, I have to pick them here. So, all right. Bills at Jets, another good division matchup. In years past, this wouldn't have been much of a good division matchup, but I was kind of encouraged by how the Jets played against the Steelers, despite them losing. They played quite well. So, what do you think for Bills at Jets?
Well, the Jets had an interesting game, and I think showed us some real possibilities. Justin Fields was pretty inspirational in that in many ways.
Yeah.
And put on a real show against the Steelers, which I did not think was going to be a game at all. I really expected the Steelers to just kind of walk over them, and it wasn't quite like that. So on the other side of the house, though, is Josh Allen just willing people to win. And the game in Baltimore was something else. How do you pick against Josh Allen? Do I think there is a potential, based on what we saw from the Jets in Week 1, for this to be a competitive game from a score-looking standpoint? Absolutely. But right now, I'm putting my money on Josh Allen. Like that's pretty easy for me. What about you? Is it? I would imagine for you, you're more rational maybe about the Josh Allen side of things. But where are you at on that?
The rational side of Josh Allen is he's the former MVP who had 4 touchdowns in Week 1 against probably the AFC favorite to challenge the Chiefs. So I don't think it's irrational to suggest that he's amazing. But I mean, on the other side of this, if the Jets can replicate some of the aggressiveness that they did last week, then they've got a real shot here to at least make it a respectable game. So similar to the game before, I don't know that this goes 96%, 4% kind of a thing. That percentage is not necessarily representative of the score they're expecting, but similarly, this is not going to be like 35-7. If the Jets can play kind of like that again, this should be 30-20, and that may not sound super respectable, but it looks better than 96-4% kind of a thing. So
yes.
I would be really interested to see the Jets pull this one off, just because that would go against the grain, so to speak. But if I were betting any money, it'd be on the Bills. So
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oh, the stupid Seahawks against the Steelers. People are kind of down on the Seahawks after last week, and they played that game against the Niners. The Niners came out on top. They've historically, I think, I should say in recent history, played fairly well against the Seahawks. I feel like maybe they're overreacting a little bit. But the Steelers, man, Aaron looked good, and the Jets, are supposed to have a really good defense. I mean, Sauce Gardner is certainly good, and they got beat in the air. So what do you think, Seahawks and Steelers?
Well, as you just pointed out, it's pretty hard to tell based on how these two teams did in their first games. Pittsburgh's defense, what happened there? Then again, the Seahawks offense wasn't exactly overwhelming either. So, I imagine they'll even out in the middle a little bit here. And then Aaron, like you pointed out, Aaron played pretty good. It's hard to argue with the general production there. I do think that I'm going to take the role on the Steelers again. That's not to disrespect, although I rarely dodge that, the Seahawks, in the sense that I do think that their offense is going to kick into gear and figure things out. We were talking about Jalen Ramsey and what and who he is right now in the league. So I'll be interested to see how that matchup works, because it does seem like the Seahawks are leaning pretty heavily on Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out during this game. That could be one of the turning points. But yeah, I would think the Steelers pull this one off. What about you?
Sadly, well, not sadly. Haha. Real left turn. No, it should be Steelers all the way. It's also a revenge game for DK Metcalf. So,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I just, for the Seahawks so far, at least through week 1, they kind of look like the team I thought they might be coming into the season. And again, I know week 1's just funny. It's not always an accurate representation of what teams are going to be. But, look like their offense is a little shaky. Sam Darnold is not, it looks like, going to just instantly pick up where he left off in Minnesota. Well, maybe he is picking up where he left off at the end of Minnesota. But just be that same guy that he was in the regular season. He's going to have to earn it with this new team. And their defense looks solid. I mean, I have no real complaints there. So yeah, they're kind of that team. But what you're describing is kind of the Jets. So, I mean, if the Steelers are over the Jets, then I don't know. It's rough. I can't quite paint a picture where they should win this game. Again, I don't think it'll be an embarrassment. I don't think this will be 7-30 or anything like that. But I'd pick the Steelers to win if they're going to play like that. I think we're liable to see some TJ Watt highlights is what comes to mind. Coming out of this week, which won't break my heart. So, but yeah, this ought to be the Steelers. All right, and again, I get to suffer. Rams at Titans. Rams beat the Texans last week, who's viewed as a better AFC South opponent. It seems like I don't know. I think more people are buying into the way that game went than I am. But again, I'm something of a Rams hater, so I can acknowledge that. Who do you got winning this game?
Well, the Rams is the shortest version. I mean, they played a very well-rounded, solid game, I think, in many regards. But the Titans, Cam obviously had a few things to figure out. I kind of like the guy and what I see from him. But I mean, he took 6 sacks for 50 yards. You know, he did have 100 yards passing. But I mean, I think his welcome to the NFL moment against a very, very good defense. I mean, arguably top 3 kind of defense was a rough one. The Rams have looked good, and I think that they're going to challenge him. I would expect him to have at least a half second more to breathe before getting hit in this game, though. Yes. Tony Pollard, I continue to cry that we let him go. He looked good in that game. He's trying to help out in every way that he can. But yeah, I don't see that being enough to challenge the Rams. I think if they can get a respectable, I think their goal should be just getting Cam anything. Like, can we get him going at all? So I guess I hope to see that.
Yeah, I mean, that should be right. It's rough for him that he's getting 2 really good defenses back to back to start his career, because Denver's maybe the best in the NFL. The Rams will have a top 10 defense, though I don't think their secondary is quite as good as their front. But still, I mean, it's just oh great, there's pressure in his face all day from some insanely athletic defensive linemen who could probably just run faster than he can. So yeah, this is kind of a rough start, but it should be all downhill from here. Wink, wink.
It'll get easy.
We'll see. I would look to their run game to try to stop the Rams from just blitzing all day long. Yeah. But yeah, it should be the Rams, and I think a healthy dose of Puka Nacua. We may eventually get a game where Devontae Adams kind of becomes more the feature, but right now it looks like Puka is the offense. So
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see moving forward. But yeah, this ought to be Rams all the way. It should be. Panthers at Cardinals. Okay, so Cardinals barely survive against the Saints, if I'm being completely honest. And yeah, it's week 1, and yes, Kyler was sick and blah, blah, and all these excuses. But we were a little scary in that game in New Orleans. And the Panthers had an absolutely atrocious week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it kind of feels like we're opposite teams here a little bit, where the Panthers start out the year really bad and then get better as the year goes on. And we start out great and then get worse as the year goes on. I'd almost rather be what they are than what we are. Maybe we could make a hybrid Kyler Murray, Bryce Young quarterback who's good for the whole season and 6 inches taller. But tell me what you think of this game. I don't want to rant on it.
No, you should rant on it. It's your Cardinals. Yeah, I think it was Bryce Young. Like Bryce. But I think, it was Bryce Young. I think he played a bad game. 2 interceptions. He fumbled the ball. It's just too many turnovers on one person. Look, things happen. Turnovers happen. All of that. But it's a lot. And it's a bad game. It's one game. Coming into this game, I think he'll look sharper, which will allow all the other parts of the offense to work some better. With that being said, the Cardinals have been, and I think continue to be, in particular on defense, very just stable and steady. Last year they held in really well against some great teams, and I think this year they've shown that they've probably taken a step in the right direction. So I think that there will be better play from Bryce Young. I don't think it'll be enough to win. I'm actually hoping maybe, the Cardinals take that next step on their offense. I don't think your offense is completely in gear yet. And I think there's plenty of room for that to go to get ramped up. James Conner didn't really get going tons. Trey Benson did. But Marvin Harrison showed what we want to see from him, which is red zone impact. But I'm going to see Trey McBride get in the red zone. I want to see somebody else in the wide receiver core catch some balls and just all of that. But yeah, I think the Cardinals pull this one out. I think both teams will take a step forward. But if that happens, the Cardinals should outpace the Panthers by a way.
Yeah, I was very. You talked about with Dallas. One of the things you were really happy about was Bland and Diggs.
Trayvon Diggs. Yeah,
never come up with him. Yeah, Bland and Diggs. I was very happy with our corners as well. Now I don't think they've turned into Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs yet, but Will Johnson played exceptionally well. He had an interception that got brought back because of a kind of a ticky-tack call, I felt like, but whatever. And then he just has amazing instincts. So getting to see him go up against a rookie and a quarterback who's prone to throwing some interceptions, we could get to see an actual turnover this game hopefully for us, not against us. We'll see. Again, we've had some weird games against the Panthers in the last decade, and so I'm ready to right that ship. And this is a great opportunity to do so. I would expect a healthy dose of both running backs, and just hopefully a very efficient game. Hopefully our pass rush will actually get home a bit this week as well. So we'll see. But I'm going to cautiously be optimistic that the Cardinals will not only win, but win somewhat decisively this week. Because our schedule gets a bit harder after week 2. So I'm inconsolable if we don't win. All right.
Oh, okay.
Get into a little bit less lopsided preview here. Broncos at Colts. Broncos gave Cam Ward his welcome to the NFL moment last week. And now they get to show us, are the Colts for real, or was that just them playing against an imploding Miami team? I'm kind of curious what you think of this one, actually. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, at first glance, with Bo Nix, that's where I'll start. Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix, that may be the worst game that he may have played. It's probably the worst game that I've seen in that regard. And I've been a fan of Bo Nix for a while. You kind of can push me towards him, I think, last season. And I really do like the guy a lot. I think he's a great fit for this team. But it was not a good game. With that being said, the Colts, I think, looked really good. Daniel Jones seemed to be a great fit for that offense. A lot of things were working out good. Jonathan Taylor didn't have to do everything himself. I think from their viewpoint, that worked out great. The thing is, though, I think that Indianapolis played a very weak Miami team who may have played one of the worst games of football we've seen in a while. So it's hard to take that and compare it 1-to-1. I think if Daniel Jones walks into the Broncos and throws 300 yards passing against that defense, I'll be a real believer in this offense and where it currently is. I expect that the defense will handle Daniel Jones and the offense on the Colts, and Bo will play a much better, more controlled game coming into week 2. So I'm going to stick with Denver in this one, even in Indianapolis. I just think the defense stabilizes that team so well that it keeps some of the pressure off Bo. I think that'll help a lot.
Yeah, I think I don't know. My gut's kind of telling me to pick the Colts here for some reason. Not that the hype is all real or something like that, but just that the Broncos might need just a second to get things going. It took them a little bit last year to really get to get things in rhythm. So, especially for Bo Nix. So, if that's just the beginning of the year thing for him and that team and that offense just takes a minute, then okay. I kind of thought that was just rookie stuff last year, but maybe it's something else. And maybe they proved me wrong completely. The Dolphins were able to run at least a bit on the Colts, it looked like. And so I would take Jonathan Taylor over any running back on the Dolphins. So I think that this run game for the Colts might keep them in this game enough to clutch it out. So I think I might actually pick the Colts to win this one. I'll admit that it's a bit of a hopeful. The Broncos are the better horse team, right? So
yeah,
we'll see. And I mean, who do I pick to have the better year? The Broncos. Yeah. But like for this game right now, the way teams are playing right this second, I'm tempted to go ahead and go Colts, but I'll probably just be wrong. All right. Get a Super Bowl rematch. We got the Eagles going to the Chiefs. Eagles are favored 66% over 34. Eagles coming off a close win against a division opponent, the Cowboys. Chiefs coming off of a close loss over a division opponent, the Chargers, last week, where I felt like Justin Herbert may have played the best I've ever seen him play, given the circumstances of who he was playing against. So Can you take more than 3 seconds to say the Chiefs are going to win, or do you need is 3 seconds enough?
I would love to say I think the Chiefs are going to win this, but I had some concerns coming out of that, and as you pointed out, Herbert looked amazing. He really looked like, hey, I would like to have a chat about this MVP. So I think that's exciting that he's really stepped into his own. Some things on Kansas City did not work at all. It was interesting to see them become so one-dimensional. I mean, there was anytime Patrick Mahomes is the leading rusher, there's a problem. Something's gone wrong. So that I'm concerned about where that part of their game has gone. And the Eagles are not the easiest team to run on. And there's going to be a very angry Carter on their line coming into this game who's going to want to make some statements because his suspension was just the one game, it turns out. Hollywood Brown looked like he came in and was effective in many regards. So there are things working on that team. Travis is still a problem in the red zone, but the run game, the complete absence of the run game makes me concerned. On the other side of that, the Eagles, either one of two things is real with the Eagles' first game, which is either Dallas is considerably better than some of the people, some of the commentators, Stephen A. comes to mind, thought. And so, either they're better and the Eagles are really good, or the Eagles have a lot of problems against a weak Dallas team that they're still trying to figure out. Obviously, I'm a Dallas fan, so I believe that Dallas is considerably better than originally had been conceded, or at least had a much better game. Yeah. And the Eagles are the more balanced team. So as much as I would love to take Kansas and would not be shocked if they won this game, I still think the Eagles look better, and they have Saquon Barkley. So to me, he is the it factor in the NFL in many regards. So I'll stick with the Eagles as much as I hate to say it.
Yeah, I feel that. If I had to paint a picture for the Chiefs winning this game, what's the path to victory for them?
Yeah.
Or create enough worry about the Eagles or whatever. They immediately went out after the Cowboys game. I think it was the day after, maybe it was 2 days. Anyway, and they went and they signed Darius Smith. And it kind of felt like, they weren't able to sack Dak Prescott even one time. Now, it's very possible that your offensive line, Dallas, is better than the Chiefs right now, although I'd say that's close. If anything, the Chiefs might actually have you by a nose. But they did not have great pass rush, and they really rely on great pass rush. So if you give Patrick Mahomes, of all people, 3 or 4 or 5 seconds to throw the ball, then he's going to tear you apart. And that would be their hope on offense. You guys were actually able to make Jalen kind of uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the Chargers were able to get some pressure on Patrick last week. So, I don't think either O-line is perfect in this game. So we'll see. I think this will be week 2 of Saquon having good numbers, but not Saquon MVP numbers, and he'll come to life after this. You guys had a surprisingly good run defense. The Chiefs have had a good run defense for a few years now. It's early in the season. I think I'd probably pick the Chiefs here, actually. The odds of them going 0-2 just seem astronomically low.
I know, right?
So I would probably pick the Chiefs. I'll be the biased Cowboy fan on your behalf. But yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. If they start out 0-2, there's going to be real talk of this season, because I think your odds of making the playoffs, they say, go down to 6% or something. It's weird.
Yeah.
Anywho, moving on. We got Falcons and Vikings. Both teams played some pretty good football. The Vikings only played like a quarter and a half at the end of the game of good football. The Falcons just let it go at the very end. They should have gone to overtime. Young Waiku, very uncharacteristic for himself, missed that extra, or excuse me, not an extra point, but that field goal. Or we might be having a very different conversation here. Who do you have? Falcons at Vikings.
Yeah. Well, the thing that surprised me about the Falcons, well, first off, it's neat to see Michael Penix Jr. There's been so much talk about him, and they rave about how good he is. He comes out and he throws 300 yards passing against their divisional rival and the expected crown wearer of that division. It's very impressive start to the season for them. A lot of things going right on that team, but the it factor there was obviously Bijan Robinson. There's a shock. I think the only shock there was that it was in receiving rather than rushing. So there's a lot of positive for them. The other thing that I find really amazing from that game was the way that they were able to hold one of the wide receiver cores that I respect the most to a very moderate game, maybe even less than that. So I don't really know what to think of the Falcons based on that yet.
Yeah.
The Vikings, on the other hand, pretty devastating defense. Obviously, I still think top 3 in the NFL. McCarthy was Jekyll and Hyde. The first half, he was like, I don't know who I am. And the second half, it was like they took the chains off and just said, go do whatever you got to do. And that I think that got fun. That got much more entertaining. What version do they send out onto the field against the Falcons and all of that is a real question mark. I don't see this one as an 88-12 kind of a break. I see this one as potentially much, much closer. But I will put money staying with the Vikings at the end of all of that. All of that to say, I'm going to pick the Vikings anyway. But it's all the defense to me mixed with when push comes to shove, does he lob the ball to Justin Jefferson for a game winner kind of a thing? So I'll take that bet over the kind of upstart, if you will, Falcons as they come in.
Yeah, I get that, and I think that's probably right. But I'll put this down to like 2 options. If JJ McCarthy last week, if this was he's a rookie and he's figuring things, he's not really a rookie. He's almost like a second-year rookie because of the circumstances from last year. But if this is just working things out and getting game speed going, and then he got better in the third and fourth quarter, it's like, okay, that makes sense. Then this could work out. But if that game was more a result of the Bears taking their foot off the gas because they were up by 2 scores and they did that a little too early, and now, oh man, we got a problem, then that's a very different story. Now the Falcons, I honestly would put in a very similar realm of the Bears as like expectations wise for different reasons. They have slightly different strengths, but they're about the same. So if that's what it was, if this was just JJ McCarthy figuring things out, and now you're not going to get three touchdowns in a quarter and a half every week, or just give him the Lombardi. But if that's more of what we're going to see, then that's one thing. But if this was Bears took their foot off the gas, then I'd give this game to the Falcons, to be completely honest, because I don't think they're going to make that same mistake. But I'm going to say that it lies somewhere in the middle, and that he's kind of figuring things out. But wasn't it kind of a no-show from Justin Jefferson? Not like no-show, but didn't he have kind of a modest game?
I mean, I think modest may even be too nice. But how many times have you thrown at?
Well, yeah, I mean, there were only 143 total passing yards. So, I mean, he was, tied with Aaron Jones, the running back. I think that makes me think that it was young quarterback building confidence, because he's not throwing to his wide receivers as much. I mean, he threw at him 7 times, but he's still relying for a lot of his completions from his like running backs and such. So we'll see. This will actually be kind of an intriguing game, I think, on Sunday night. But
I agree.
I think I might. I think I'd go with the Vikings, but to me, this is not 12% and 88%. This would be like a coin toss. So we'll just see. Speaking of games that are kind of like a coin toss, we got the Buccaneers barely barely victorious over the previously mentioned Falcons, but still had some very bright spots like Emeka Egbuka getting his first 2 touchdowns, looking like the heir apparent to Godwin or Mike Evans or whoever. And then you got the Texans, who disappointed me, at least, against the Rams. I was definitely hoping they'd pull that one off. Their defense was definitely most of what we had suggested it would be. I mean, they still only allowed 14 points, I believe. So it's not like they got blown out. Who you got in Bucks Texans?
I don't know. I feel like this one is maybe the most 50-50 of any of the ones we've talked about. I think it's the confusion on Houston. Like the Bucks, I'm not overly shocked, but I'm a little surprised that the Falcons were able to hold that wide receiver core in check. But with the Houston, I'm not even sure what all went wrong there. You know, CJ was spreading the ball around. It wasn't just like, hey, I'm going to one guy, which I love about him. You know, Nick Chubb got some going, but they really didn't lean, seems like, heavy on the run either. So I'm not 100% sure what to think about either team. I guess my gut instinct here is that I would probably take the Texans because if the Falcons defense gave the Bucks that much trouble, when you get Danielle Hunter in there, what is that going to look like against them? So I'll be very interested to see how this one plays out. I expect CJ Stroud to come back around and that team pick back up, against the Bucks. So that I'm going to take the Texans on this one. Where are you sitting on this?
Yeah, I'm like a tertiary Baker Mayfield fan or something like that. So I'm tempted to go Buccaneers, and I respect him and like watching him play regardless of the outcome of this game. It's not just about the Texans defense. Their offense really wasn't able to put anything together, and it felt like the loss of Laramie Tunsil was immediately felt. Now, taking that into context, I think the Rams have a much better defensive front than the Buccaneers have. Maybe just a much better defense in general. So this should be a higher scoring game than 9-14, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah. As for what you were talking about with the Bucs offense, that was oddly sluggish for them. It's not like you see the Falcons and you think, oh, this is going to be an amazing defensive match. No, not so much. So not really sure what to expect there. Maybe there's a dose of that week 1 weirdness that I've talked about, maybe too much, but there are all kinds of questions here. I would be tempted to go with the Texans as well for kind of the same reasons I'd go with the Chiefs, where it's like, I'm going 0-2 to start the season seems like a bit much with that roster. I do have some lingering questions about them, and I do like a lot of what the Bucs are doing. And I could see the Buccaneers having the better record at the end of the season. But for this week, with kind of what's on the line early on in the season, I think I'd agree with you on the Texans, but it is hard for me to really pull one way or another here. So yeah, I'll go with you. I'll go with you, Texans here. I'm preferring the Buccaneers, just for the record. Last but certainly not least, we get the Chargers playing against the Raiders. The Chargers managed to knock off the Chiefs week 1 down in Brazil in kind of a weird but oddly fun game. Justin Herbert played like the MVP, and it was enough. It was kind of just enough, but it was enough. And that's all you need against the Chiefs. So the Raiders, on the other hand, played against the Patriots, another P team. And a lot of people have the Patriots slated to be this pretty good team this year. Some people think they're going to win the AFC East over the Bills. I think that's kind of madness, but whatever. And so stepping up and being kind of exceeding those expectations was a great start to the season for them. This would be one heck of a win if they could pull this off over the Chargers. Who do you have winning this one?
I've really worked hard to try to convince myself that the Raiders actually can win this one, but I can't quite get there. I'm not that far off. I think if they can turn this into a shootout, I think they may have a real chance here. It's that the three guys from the Chargers. It's the Quentin Johnson, Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen. That's tough to keep up with. Conklin's in there as well, but Brock Bowers is a menace. And it seems like he's already figured out life with Geno. Geno seems like they're okay together. And Jacoby Myers is a good wide receiver, and they're all working. I'm not yet sold on Ashton Janty, but like there's things working there. I mean, they dropped, Geno Smith, as he does, drops crazy amounts of yards on people. So if they can get in the end zone and really score some, I think this one could be very, very interesting. I also think Max Crosby's looking good already. If he can get in and disrupt things in the backfield, not give him enough time to go to those guys, all of those things lend themselves in their favor. But with all that being said, I would still have to take the Chargers. What about you?
Yeah, you're probably right. Standout stats from the first game, as much as the Raiders impressed in a lot of ways, they still gave up 4 sacks. Against the Patriots defense, that's probably going to be feisty, but I don't know that I see them as dominating yet. They have a couple of really good players. Harold Landry, people have forgotten about somewhat because he was on that bad Titans defense there for a while. He's reunited with Vrabel up in New England and so on. He had 2.5 of those sacks. But I think the Chargers defense, at least on their roster, is probably better even than the Patriots have. They were able to slow down the Chiefs' run game and really, just keep Patrick Mahomes down to 20 points. So this should be the Chargers. It should be. I think this is a bad game for Ashton Janty. Jim Harbaugh has made it a point of emphasis, even amongst points of emphasis, to stop the run. So if he can get going, that'll be really impressive. But I just don't see it being the dominating thing yet. Goal lines, he maybe, it may be one of those where he has low yardage but still has a touchdown somehow if they can get to go one kind of a deal. But this should be the Chargers all the way. So, all right. Well,
which will make for a very interesting week 2.
Yeah, that should be. It should be a fun week too. I don't feel like there's as many evenly matched teams as last week. There are some where it seemed like, get blown out. How do I, that kind of thing. But it should be a really fun week too. So hope you all enjoy it. I hope I enjoy it, and not have to hate the Panthers for the rest of my life. So, thank everyone for joining us today. Let us know what your picks were down in the comments and where we're wrong and all this, and just let us know how you feel. So. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers. That's our next milestone with the subscriber count. So if anyone's willing, please give us a like and a subscribe. We'd love to join you again, or you to join us, or both, and talk about some more football. For everyone who's already subscribed, a big thank you. We just look forward to getting into this every week. So until next time, have a fantastic day.